This is County Executive Steve Shhhh. You're listening to the Maryland Crabs Podcast.
Live from a grungy kitchen table located in Annapolis, Maryland's scenic and historic capital, it's the Maryland Crabs Podcast. With each episode, your hosts, Tim Hamilton, John Frenay, and the occasional guest will dive in and pick apart the stuff that really matters most to you. We're too lazy to actually solve any of these problems, but we can definitely stir the pot. From schools, politics, parking in the fire lane, to those horrible people who drive BMWs. And here with this week's episode, live from the kitchen table, Tim Hamilton and John Frenay.
Hey, it's the Maryland Crabs. It is John and Tim, fresh off of his mommy tour.
I had a mommy tour. That's right. I have mom issues because I'm Irish Catholic.
That's true. You did a crab cake if you haven't listened to it.
I'm not really Catholic, though, anymore, but I'm Irish American. But okay. Yeah, we did the crab cake with my ma.
Yep.
She was a
Mother's
trooper.
Day?
On Mother's Day, yeah. So we went over to my nephew. He had his first communion. My wife was out of town for Mother's Day, so it was easy for me. But so we were over there, and I wanted to do the interview with my mom, and it was just chaos. I couldn't. So I drove back, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I felt guilty because I kind of had it in my mind what I wanted to talk to her about. So I gave her a call, kind of woke her up, and I apologized for waking her up, but I wasn't sorry. And we did about 20 minutes, and I edited it and put it up.
And you proceeded to apologize for everything you did.
I did. I had a list. I had a list of things that bothered me. There's like two things that I was going to apologize for, and I'm like, because there's the 10-year rule of like the things with your parents for 10 years you can apologize after that amount of time. And then I was like, you know what? No.
And you apologized for putting a dent in the car.
I did. That one was kind of way into my, because I lied to her. It was a bald-faced lie. You know, I remember coming home and I just said, Ma, I parked the car. I went in. I got hit. I don't know what else I can tell you. You have to believe me. I'm your son. And I was totally lying through my teeth. But yeah, so it was a list of stuff. It was fun. She was a natural. It was a good time. I don't think I'm doing it for Father's Day. But yeah, I love my pop, but he's not as...
a podcast guy.
Not a podcast guy, no.
I get it. Well, you're lucky you got a mom.
Oh my God, you just kind of turned on me.
No, I mean, my mom passed away several years ago, and so I couldn't interview her for Mother's Day.
No, but you didn't have to buy gifts either, so it's kind of a
that's true.
Kind of a push. There's no pressure. Sorry about your mom.
That's true.
But you don't have the pressure either.
That is true. But hey, this month is Maryland Podcast Month.
Yep.
And if nobody knows anything about that, you should go to. I'm going to screw up the website, so I want to say redmaryland.com because there's a link on there. And no, it's not all about right-wing politics. They are the ones that are just sort of spearheading this, and they're highlighting just podcasts that are produced in Maryland.
Yeah, they stepped up and they kind of pulled everyone together, which is a really cool thing.
They did. And lest you think it is all Red Maryland and all this right-wing stuff, they do have Heather Mazur joined and her Ms. Maryland Soul Force Politics.
And she's a far lefty.
Yes, she is. She couldn't be any farther lefty.
Yeah, you put her and Red Maryland together, and it rains in the middle. You get the two fronts.
That's true. But yeah, I mean, they're highlighting different podcasts that are there. I mean, music and comedy, and
we have the crossover episodes. We're having each other on each other's episodes,
and we're going to be on Red Maryland tonight.
Yep.
And so
they do it live. And then
they got balls.
Yeah, they do it live over YouTube, I believe. I should know all this. And then, or not YouTube, but whatever network they are. And then
Blog Talk Radio.
Right. And then they record it as a podcast too.
And they release it as a podcast. Yeah. They got some balls to do it.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job with it.
They do.
They do. They got a nice flow going. It's they're pros up there.
So I'm looking forward to that and seeing what it is. We've got an upcoming episode which will be very interesting. We've got actually a couple. We've got one with Margaret Davis from Maryland Hall, the new executive director. I was finally able to nail her down, and you know how I did it? I called up. I said, "Look, I can get the governor, the county executive, the mayor, a congressman, a U.S. senator." I said, "But I can't get you. What's the deal?"
Oh, I thought you were dropping names.
No. I said I can call them up and get a podcast scheduled. But I said you're like the elusive one.
Actually, I did. Yeah, I ran into her a few times. Like, we're gonna have you on. She's like, yeah, that'd be great. But I didn't believe her. But you got her.
Yep, we did. So that's interesting. Lots of great new stuff going on at Maryland Hall. I'm trying to think what else I've got in the hopper there. I know that you're going to be talking in the podcast month. You're going to be talking with Josh Cohen with More Power to You.
Yeah, more power to you. That's Josh, our former mayor, who's jumped into the podcast world. And we helped him out with it. And within 5 minutes, he understood the equipment better than we did.
Way better.
Yeah. He was explaining stuff to us. Mm-hmm. And then we got Liz Murphy from Naptown Pint.
Yep.
So
the Naptown Pintcast.
Pintcast, yep. And she's got a column in the Capitol as well. That was a blast. She and I recorded that Friday night. 1747, which is at State Church Circle down in the basement. And we really had a good time.
Good.
And let's see, I've got a couple other crab cakes coming up too.
Yeah.
So,
and I just got done talking with former county executive and current delegate candidate, John Leopold. So that will be very interesting.
yeah, John texted me. He goes, "This one was good."
Yeah. So lots of good stuff coming up for the Maryland Crabs in the next couple of days. Oh, actually, we're going to be doing one on the triathlon that the city and the state and the county are going in together. That's happening in July. It's called the Inaugural Sailors Triathlon. And we'll be talking with Gavin Buckley, who will be doing the running portion of that. Mm-hmm. We'll be talking with Boyd Rutherford, who is doing the biking portion of it. And Steve Shhhh, county executive, who's going to be doing the swimming thing. And God, I hope he's not going to wear a Speedo.
Speed don't.
So we've got those all set up, and we'll figure that out when they air. So make sure you stick around for all the good stuff that we've got coming up pretty soon with this. And also check out the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival. That's happening Saturday and Sunday. Great lineup. And
who's headlining that?
It depends what night. You've got Brian Setzer and his Rockabilly Orchestra. Brian Setzer from Stray Cats.
Yeah.
And I think he is on Saturday night, and on Sunday night it's Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good lineup.
Yeah, it is. And there's some young. Do you remember seeing the YouTube video of some young just guitar kid shredding it on a cruise ship by chance? Like 11. He's there.
Oh yeah, I know that kid. Yeah, that was.
Awesome.
I can't get my son to bring the trash cans up from the curb. We got an 11-year-old who's shredding it on the guitar.
Yeah,
and featured at a blues
getting
festival.
Paid big bucks to do that. But what probably even if you go back and listen to the excerpts that we put out of that episode, two things they talked about was when I can't remember who it was. But he came out of the dressing room with
good story
with Don Hooker and said, "Look, man, I can't take your money. Give this money to all the kids that you're doing this festival for." And this artist gave back his money.
Oh, really?
And then Sarah was talking about when Chubby Checker was there, and there was a fan there that was suffering from cancer, had the bald head and everything else, and was not doing too well, a kid,
right.
And was a fan of him. And Chubby put on a shirt, and he turned around and wrote a message to him on the back of the shirt and hand wrote it and called out every single letter to this kid who had lost his sight as part of the cancer thing. So he could hear exactly what Chubby Checker was writing on the back of his shirt. So there's some really cool stories out of the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival, which is celebrating 20 years.
I haven't gone there for a long time, and I love blues.
Yeah, it's really cool. So go check those out. That's kind of neat. And, of course, make sure you check out the Annapolis Daily News Brief every Monday through Friday.
Now, remember that if you want to do that, the best way to do it is through the Alexa. I got to tell you, that's how I do it every morning. You do. You got it, but you have to enable the skill. So you go into your Alexa app on your phone, you go to skills, and then you make sure you download the app and you enable it. It takes 5 seconds to do. And after that, all you got to do is tell Alexa to play it.
Right. And this is totally off script. If anybody has a Mac computer, like an iMac or a laptop,
as opposed to a Mac washing machine.
Yeah. And it goes back and it goes bad, or you've got a problem with it, go to Mac Medics in Severna Park, man.
I've been hearing him talk about this all day.
You know, my computer
just hear it again.
All sorts of died. Dana up there just did me well. I'll tell you, I dropped the thing off Friday morning, and I picked it up Tuesday, early morning, with 4 parts replaced. It was under warranty, so I didn't have to pay for it, which is even better. But they're just so much better than going to the mall and hanging out for the Genius Bar, which doesn't exist anymore. So then you kind of sit on bean bags and wait till somebody comes up and doesn't know what they're doing to tell you that they just have to send it back to Apple.
Do you know, I went to, that happened to me. No, I'm not going to bash the Apple store because, I mean, they're all right. But I went there with a problem with the phone probably a week ago. And I got there on a Friday night, I think it was. It was like, I got there, my appointment was at 6. And I got there at 5:15. I was early. So I told the guy, I said, look, I'm really early. I'm going to just set up a table over here and work. I was going to do some work. He goes, okay, that's fine. So finally, and my appointment was at 6. And so finally at like 7:45, I went over, I'm like, hey, when's my turn here? And the guy goes, oh, well, you were a no-show. I'm like, what do you mean no-show? I've been sitting here. How can I not show up when I've been here the whole time? He goes, well, I'll see if I can squeeze you in. And then I flipped out. And everyone stopped and talking to look at me. But then they finally squeezed me in.
You know what I really dislike about the Mac store, and this is nothing against...
I guess we are bashing them. Go ahead.
The Apple store, is their lighting.
Oh, you're going a different way than I thought you were.
Yeah, no, totally. I get a headache when I get in there because they've got that big giant screen across the whole back wall,
right,
which is constantly in motion with the LED. But the whole ceiling is sort of like fluorescent light, so it's got that. To me, it's got that little vibration. I get in there and I'm like starting to get a headache after about 3 or 4 minutes in there. I've got to physically leave. That's why I love the app, the Apple Store app. So you go in and you feel like you're shoplifting.
Yeah.
You know, you need a case. Bloop, charge it,
Oh, I haven't done that.
and out the door.
But the worst part is if you have to make an appointment with a Genius Bar and you do that online, they'll say there's nothing available. Like, you're looking a week, 10 days out, and they'll say there's nothing available. So you can't get in for weeks at a time sometimes.
You know what? You go to Macmedics.
Yeah.
You wait 2 minutes at the counter till somebody talks to you.
Yeah, I'm doing that from now on. And by the way, they're not a sponsor. They're not paying us. It's just...
No, they're just good. They're good local business up in Severna Park right there on Benfield Road, not Benfield Boulevard. And it's kind of...
warehousey? Like a warehouse sort of place?
No, it's not. It's a storefront.
Well, they moved... last time I was there.
Yeah, they used to be in a warehouse place over there on the other side
ago.
of 97. This is sort of by Jones Station Road or something Truck Road.
I offered John to, because I said you can use my laptop because I'm not going to use it because I was being a good friend, very generous. But I thought that if he used my computer and then if my wife ever found anything on the computer, I could say, I let John use it and who knows what he did. So you were my insurance.
And that's exactly why I said I didn't want to use it. You come up with your plan B. This week we talked to Ann Brennan and her child, Ethan, who are the brainchilds behind
Brain children?
Brainchildren?
Sure.
Brain mom and child?
Yes.
I don't know. Behind Burgers and Bands, which is a fundraiser up in Severna Park happening on June 3rd. And I do encourage everybody to go. It's going to be held at the Severna Park Taphouse, which is right on Early Heights Avenue.
It's a good place. I like the place.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about suicide prevention and awareness of mental issues that is rampant just pretty much all over the country, particularly in Severna Park. Severna Park's had a whole lot of different suicides. We talk a little bit about their own battles with depression, where they are, how they're handling it, and what good this is. This event has done. It's the second year it's happened. Last year they raised a couple $1,000s, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, this was such a great event." And this year they've got sponsors, and now they're looking for people to go. So I do encourage everybody to go if you can get up there and spend an hour or 2 hours or whatever it may be up at the Severna Park Taphouse on Early Heights Road on Sunday the 3rd. Do a little bit good for all the people in Severna Park and the area. And the money will go to support those causes as well. So it's a purely volunteer. The place gives the venue for free. The bands play for free. And they've got some really top-notch band. They got Jimi Davies from Jimmy's Chicken Shack.
Oh, yeah.
They've got Kelly Bell Band, the kids from Priddy Music Academy. Tons of people that'll be there. So let's tune in now. We'll talk about the event a little bit. And we're going to talk about Ethan and Ann's battle.
And I'll just watch your dog destroy his dog bed.
Spring is here, and baseball season is here. Is your lawn ready for a game of catch or batting practice with the kids? Turn to the lawn and garden experts at Homestead Gardens and learn what products they recommend for a healthy green lawn. Homestead Gardens carries the widest selection of natural and organic garden solutions for a kid, pet, and environmentally safe lawn. Because lawns aren't just for looking at, they're for playing in. Visit homesteadgardens.com for weekly deals, inspiration, and more. Live life outdoors this season with Homestead Gardens, Davidsonville, and Severna Park.
Hey, it's May, and it's Maryland Podcast Month. No, Hallmark didn't invent this puppy, so there's no need to get a card, but do yourself a favor and give a listen to some of the other Maryland-based podcasts. Our right-wing friends, hey, they called us liberals first, at Red Maryland have put together a website called MarylandPodcastMonth.com, and it lists all of the podcasts that are participating this month. Throughout the month of May, many of us will be showing up on other Maryland podcasts as guests, and we'll have all sorts of antics throughout the month. Among the participants are Red Maryland and Ion Annapolis, of course, and then others to cover every topic you can possibly think of. Podcasts such as Quality Time, The Maryland Crabs, A History of Maryland, The Conduit Street Podcast, Laugh Finder, The Extra Point Show, Society Fringe Players, The Mark and Lowell Show, The Engine Mom Podcast, and quite a few more. So go to MarylandPodcastMonth.com, check it out, get familiar with a new podcast near you, and of course, please let all your friends and associates know as well. And we will see you all May during Maryland Podcast Month.
Hi, this is Anne Arundel County Executive Steve Shhhh. We hear the headlines every day. Heroin, fentanyl, even elephant tranquilizer. But addiction usually starts with prescription drugs. Don't be silent about this problem. Talk to your children. Ask your doctor to provide only the minimum number of pills necessary. Go to denialisdeadly.org right now for the tools you need to stop heroin addiction before it starts.
Well, we are here with Ann Brennan and Ethan Brennan, and these are, again, not names that you're probably familiar with, but you're probably familiar with the product if you live up in the Severna Park area. And you guys are the founders, the brainchildren is the word I'm looking for, of Burgers and Bands, which is happening at the Severna Park Taphouse.
Exactly, June 3rd.
June 3rd. And the Severna Park Taphouse, that's right on Arley Heights Road.
Exactly, just across from the ranger station.
Okay. And it's not just a burger and band thing. So what's it all about?
It's for suicide prevention. We did so Ethan and I started raising money for suicide prevention in 2013. We did a walk it was an out of the darkness walk. It was an overnight walk, and it was I should go back. So Ethan was in the hospital at Shepherd Pratt for depression, and I, on my way there, heard a commercial saying there's this overnight walk, and I'd heard about it before. I got to the hospital and I said to Ethan, hey, what do you think about when you get out of here, we'll do this walk together? He goes, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So I said, okay. I said, I'm going to do it anyway. So I raised my $1,000 and I decided to do it. He got out of the hospital 2 weeks later, so now we're 2 weeks away from the walk. He goes, hey, I think I want to do it. And I said, Ethan, you have to raise $700, because he was a student. I'm like, you have to raise $700. I don't know if I can do that in 2 weeks. And he goes, well, can we try? And I said, well, you know what I'll do? I'll reach out. Our son was at West Point at the time, our oldest son. And I said, I'll reach out to the West Point.
We're done. You're Army?
Yes.
Oh, man.
But
okay.
just so you know, he left.
Thanks for joining us today. But
So he was at West Point at the time, though. And we had told the parents, the West Point parents, what was happening with Ethan, because quite honestly, I needed some support. And so there were some West Point moms that were all together on Facebook, and they were very supportive of us through all of it. And I said, hey, Ethan's gotten out. We want to do this walk. I've got to try to raise $700 do you think you can help? Within, 2 hours? I think 2 hours we raised $2,400, because the parents, these moms, were like, yes, anything we can do to show support.
Phenomenal,
for this
the
child.
support.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of all of this. We did that walk, the overnight walk.
Decided it wasn't hard enough.
I decided it wasn't hard enough. So the next 2 years we did a 24-hour walk, which drove my husband, his dad, nuts. And because we would walk, we'd start in Cumberland, Maryland, and we'd walk for 24 hours, wherever we ended up. And
where did you? Was there a route, or is it
the Greater Allegheny Passage? So, just so you know, that's a closed route. But we never saw a ranger the whole time, so we were okay with being on that route. So nobody got us in trouble, and we raised quite a bit of money. So even before we started this, we raised over $20,000 for suicide prevention, and between our two walks, and I sold hats. We did all kinds of things, and then Burgers and Bands was really our brainchild. We decided that we kept saying we want to do something closer to home, and we didn't want to walk on this trail at night. We didn't want to walk on the trail overnight.
Right. That would be the B&A trail, right?
Yeah, the B&A trail. We just thought, let's do something different, and let's try to involve the community. Mm-hmm. So Burgers and Bands came about because of that, and it all came about very, very quickly.
Yeah. So like 2 months?
Yeah, about 2 months.
Well, Ethan, okay, you were at Shepherd Pratt. I mean, so you were suffering from depression, and with the suicide. I mean, had you attempted suicide?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay, so this is not just depression that could lead to suicide. This was something that hit really, really close home for everybody there. And I know that Severna Park, strangely enough, has a very high incidence of suicide and attempted suicide within the community. So it's certainly a needed bit of awareness that people need to go. And I mean, and you look at what depression is and where it may lead to. There's just so many pressures that we have in our daily lives, whether it be with works or relationships or identities or family relationships or whatever it may be.
Getting into the right school.
School, I've got the schools or the sports. I've got to make varsity. I've got to the whole 9 yards. And I don't know whether jokingly said, but I don't ever remember being nearly as scheduled when I was a kid that I see these guys are today. It's like, okay, well, we've got school till 3:15, and then we need to go to practice, and that goes till 7:30, and then we've got to go to tutoring, and then we've got to go to this because we need to take the AP classes, and we've got the exams, and it's, there's no time to be a kid, and there's no downtime, and that's just my sort of pontification.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing is that, and I think you agree with me, there's no time to socialize in a way you can see that you're not alone, because everybody's busy. So when you're busy, you're not thinking about all the things that are bothering you. It's when you're alone that you start thinking that. And so one of the reasons we did this is to say you're not alone. You're not alone in this battle. And it's actually, we have a card we give to people, and it says you're not alone. We take pictures of them with it. And it makes a difference, because people do feel like, Ethan said to me, do you remember saying at the time, I said, lots of people at Severna Park High School are depressed. And you said, no, I'm the only one. And I'm like, but they hide it. And you said, no, I hide it really well. Other people can't hide it quite as well as I do. I don't think anybody else is going through what I'm going through. And we've had 19 suicides in this community, in Severna Park, since 2004. That's a lot of suicides for somebody who lives here.
Is that just young adult teen suicides, or is that?
I was wondering that too. I saw the statistic, and I thought it was low. So I don't know if it's just young teens.
Okay, because I know there was a Green Hornets coach that had committed suicide at one point up this way, and I certainly know there was the one girl, the twin Vander Kolk.
Yes, Tracy Vander Kolk.
And it's a horrible thing to have to discuss. It's disgusting, to be honest with you, that we have to have the conversation and the awareness of it, but it's certainly time to make awareness of it. I know Annapolis has their Walk Out of the Darkness, which is it's not a 24-hour walk, it's more like a stroll.
It is. But actually, that's how this came about. So I'm on that committee for that Walk Out of the Darkness, and there's only, people don't realize this, there are only 3 people in that committee. So 3 people, and then there was a 4th who was having a baby, so she sort of was in there sometimes. Wonderful lady. But they were all going to do fundraisers. They're like, in addition to doing the Out of the Darkness walk, they're like, we're going to do our own fundraisers. And I think I misunderstood what sort of fundraisers they were going to do. So they did like paint nights and smaller things like bake sales. And I said, I'm going to do this thing called Burgers and Bands. And I called the Tap House. Literally planned it within minutes. I called the Tap House. I said, hey, can we have the Tap House for the day on I think it was May 21st last year. And they said, sure. And I said, but we want the whole thing. They said, absolutely, you can have the whole thing. And I said, at no cost? They said, nope, no cost.
And that was too easy.
That was too easy. I was like, okay. So then I called Lee.
Now what?
Yeah, well, I called Lee Priddy, because I'm like, how am I going to get bands, right? So I called Lee Priddy at Priddy Music Academy, and I said, can you get me some bands that'll play all day? And he said, absolutely. He had lost a student to suicide. Right. And he said, absolutely, whatever I can do. And he not only got his bands from the Academy, which are really, really good bands, he also got adult bands who are really well known. And this year we've gotten even better bands. We've got some really, really good bands.
Well, let's talk about the event a little bit, okay? And it is June 3rd, and it's an all-day event.
Yes.
And this is the 3rd year for it?
Second year, so.
I'll start and read it. Okay, and this is the 2nd year for this band?
Yes.
Okay, so what happened last year? This is, you charge an admission.
Yes.
Your food, I'm assuming, is you buy your burgers.
Right.
And you buy your beer.
Exactly.
I'm assuming they serve beer there, right?
Yeah,
Even
they
though
serve beer there, yes, exactly.
And you just have a great party with a bunch of local bands.
Right, yeah. And we sold T-shirts. We had, I don't think we did a 50-50 raffle. We raffled off tickets to the Firefly Festival. We had tickets for the Firefly Festival last year. So we did several, and then we had just had a bucket that would pass around. People would throw in money. So
and you'd have door prizes and stuff like that as well.
Exactly. So, and we had a face painter. We had a bunch of different things going on. So it was very family friendly.
And as far as the prizes and stuff like that, you've gone out to the local community.
Yes.
You're going to the hardware store saying, hey, can we get a gift card? Or I don't think you're asking for table saws, but whatever it may be.
Exactly.
And the Lido Pizza for some pizzas and whatnot.
Exactly.
To do it. And the community's been very receptive for you?
Oh my gosh, they've been incredible. So last year we raised a total of $8,000. That was, we only had 2 months to raise it, so $8,000, we were pretty happy.
And it was basically only all in ticket sales, so we had the $8,000.
Exactly. So this year we decided Well, actually, we didn't even decide. It's not North Arundel anymore. Baltimore, Washington Medical Center called me and said, "Hey, we'd like to sponsor the event." And I said, "I don't have a sponsorship program." And they said,
"Well, you do now."
They said, "Well, you do now." And so we sat down with the Bonks. The Bonk team is part of this, and we came up with this plan of how we were going to get sponsors. We have raised $23,000 in sponsorship alone before ticket sales.
So if nobody shows up, you've raised $23,000 for awareness programs. Now, what specifically does it go to? I mean, we've got suicide awareness. I mean, obviously, and depression awareness. By having the event, you're certainly raising the awareness. But
exactly.
What does it go specifically to beyond that?
So last year it went to we gave all the money to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They do a lot of research. They're the biggest researcher of suicide and depression in this country. They do an amazing job. They also educate the community. They
have some support programs.
They have some support programs. So if you lose someone to suicide, they have a support team that goes out and helps. And they're actually working to make that even bigger. We still won't the majority of the money to go to them this year, but we're also supporting the STAR program at Severna Park High School.
Okay.
And we've reached...
And what does that stand for? I
don't know what it stands for. I know what they do.
I know it's one of those stupid acronyms
I know, but I know what they do is they...
As Ethan whips out his cell phone, and he's going to figure this one right out.
But they have speakers come in, but they have speakers come in for this 1 week, but it's so much more than that 1 week. They do this really cool thing where every month they have an event in their homeroom where they talk about something related to mental health. So they'll talk about depression or anxiety or drugs, and they try to bring some kind of awareness to the students and get a feel for how the students are doing. And considering what's happened at that high school with suicides, it's a huge step. It's a really huge step. But we're also doing... Oh, did you find out what it stands for?
What's the verdict?
No.
I couldn't find it.
It came up short.
So, but we're also giving some money to... hopefully Corcoran Middle School. They're working on a mindfulness program for their students because they're having a real problem. It's an underprivileged school and they need a lot of help. So they're going to try to create a mindfulness program that will help them. And then there's the Warriors Music Foundation, and they work with veterans, and they do music therapy for veterans who are dealing with PTSD.
So this is really keeping it in the town where the issue really is here.
Exactly.
And, you're so right about, when you said, nobody is like me. And I found, I'm divorced, and when my kids were young, it was like they started to slowly discover that there were other kids that had divorced parents. And initially, I remember when they went in this third grade, first grade, whatever it was, like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one that's like this. This is, you people are the only two that have ever done a divorce.
Right.
And then, hey, did you know that Charlie's dad and mom were divorced? And did you know that? And I think that's a great realization when you talk about what Corcoran is doing and the STAR program and whatnot, to be able to sit there and say, as you said, and I'm sure that's a tagline somewhere, you're not alone.
Right.
And that really is. I mean, the problem is that you're keeping it in and you think you're alone.
Exactly. And that just makes it worse.
And
right?
that's it. And I think intrinsically humans have a nurturing desire to help somebody. But then again, we run into the problem that you don't necessarily able to see a problem until it really manifests itself out there. What do you think we need to do? And actually, I'd like to sort of get both of your perspectives on this. If money were no object, if resources were no object, what do you think would help to reduce, depression, suicide, anxiety, stress, whatever it would be, to make, I don't think you're ever going to make it go away, but entirely, but to really cut back on that problem? Is there anything? I mean, is it education? Is it having support? I know the county has the crisis response team.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Which you're hearing them in the news mostly for heroin overdoses. And it's, if you're overdosing, they're going to come out and help you out there. But they also do work with, suicidal folks. They work with, just depression, anxiety, and people that are just freaking out for whatever reason it may be. And Jen Corbin, I think, is the one that runs it, and she's just really good.
Right.
Do we need more of those? Do you think there's a need for more clinical stuff? I don't know.
So I feel like it's a bit of a combination. I mean, you need a lot of education. I remember in high school, one of the times I got out of the hospital and I come back and my chemistry teacher hands me this packet, like 2 inches thick. This is the work you have to make up, and you have 2 exams. And so
basically,
we come back, we go to the counselor, and she goes to the teacher like, you can't do this, they just attempted suicide. Like, that's not okay. Even so, it took almost a month before they realized how to help, and that you can't overload people. And then having support systems. I know in high school we had one school counselor, and she had a tough job.
Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, she shared that job. That was not. She
worked at multiple schools.
She worked at multiple schools, so she was only there a couple of days a week.
Yeah. Sure. And then you get a personality conflict or something like that, and you get somebody that you're just not comfortable speaking with, and that runs into an additional problem there.
I want to go back to what you're saying, though. I think education is a huge part of it, but education not just of the students, but of the teachers. And I think that's one of the things we've seen since we started this, is how many teachers have reached out to say, so what were the signs I could have looked for? What were the signs with Ethan I could have looked for? Unfortunately, there are still people who didn't. Are
signs fairly similar across different people that are suffering from depression that may attempt suicide, or is there something in common that somebody could look at?
There are. I mean, there are people who are dealing with mental illness, especially if it's just coming on. If they're just dealing with, just now dealing with anxiety or just now dealing with depression, you'll see a mood change, and not just. They won't necessarily. People were shocked by Ethan because they're like, he was always smiling. How could he be depressed? And that wasn't it. Instead of being with people how he'd always been, he suddenly was by himself all the time. Okay. Instead of playing soccer like he always had, and he loved soccer, he would play it when he had to, but he didn't have that ball with him anymore. You didn't see that. There were a lot of signs. With Ethan, there was weight loss because he stopped eating quite as much as he did. So there are signs. Sometimes you'll see people who are really, really nice, and suddenly they're angry. And that's a big part of it, is they're just angry, and they snap at you, and you're like, wait a second, that person doesn't do that normally. So there are the mood is a real key.
If I notice somebody that exhibits those types of behaviors and I'm suspicious, what, as a bystander, as a friend, as a family member, what would you say the best course of action for me would be?
So I do these talks called Talk Saves Lives, and that's so true. Talk saves lives. So we say, talk to them and ask them, and don't be afraid. And one of the things we see so often, people are afraid of saying, are you going to hurt yourself? Are you thinking about committing suicide? Is this something that's on your mind? And sometimes they're just waiting for you to ask that question. They're just waiting for you so they can say,
and then this is like,
yes,
it all
oh my
opens
God,
out.
Please help me, right? And you're not going to push them into doing it. This is not suggestion. You're not suggesting it to them.
It takes a lot of courage to ask for the help.
It does. So, John, Ethan said to me a while ago, and I've expanded on it since, but he says, depression's a liar. Depression lies to you. And how I've expanded on it is to say, okay, depression is this liar who's standing in front of you, but he weighs 500 pounds and he's 7 feet tall. And he's not just lying to you, he's screaming in your face that you are worthless. Nobody cares, nobody wants to know, and you'd be better off dead. And he's telling you these things, you're all alone. That's what he's telling you. And it's really hard to see around it. So when you said, how can I help somebody? You help them by asking the question, because you are then peeking around that person and saying, no, you're not alone. I'm here.
I'm on the other side.
Exactly. And I think that was one of the smartest things Ethan ever said to me, and I'm so very proud of that.
That's really a great analogy and a great way to look at that. It ties into bullying certainly as well. I mean, you've got a big 7-foot bully lion. It's
right.
It's exactly what it is, and you've got to figure out a way to kick it down to the curb.
Exactly.
And this is exactly where this all started from. I mean, you're certainly very brave and very to come out and to discuss this. And I think that with Burgers and Bands, it's a tremendous way to raise money for a problem that is underfunded. Do you think? And I know at one point suicide was considered a crime. And has that been decriminalized? I mean, I don't know.
I think in Maryland it has been decriminalized. I know in some states, I don't know exactly which ones. I think Tennessee is one of the ones where it still is, because we just recently had a friend who called his daughter, threatened to kill himself. She called the police. They got him to the hospital, and when they got out of the hospital,
he was charged with
attempted suicide.
Right.
So so I don't think that is very helpful.
And I mean it's not a crime. I mean, depression is a disease. It's an imbalance or something in the brain or something in the body or whatever, and it is something that needs to be treated. And I'm not a believer in overly medicating. I think that doctors to a degree tend to, your kid's he's a little bit hyper. Okay, well we'll give him some Adderall and he'll be fine.
Right.
I think there's ways to work around that. I think that certainly for depression, I mean, my mother, I think she probably was clinically depressed for a good part of her life, and she had was taking pills. She was taking the uppers and the downers depending on what the day when that was prescribed. And I don't necessarily know that that's that, because we didn't have the resources back then that we do now.
Right.
I know Anne Arundel Medical Center just had their Denims and Diamonds, and they're looking to expand their mental health inpatient facilities. They want to build an additional facility out there by Pathways with I think 25 additional inpatient beds. And I think that this is a conversation that needs to be happening. This is just like the heroin conversation that is currently going on.
Right. Well, and I think heroin is an extension, really, of the mental illness problem, because when you look at it, almost always there's an underlying mental illness with people who become addicted to heroin. Or any disease, but any drugs, because they're looking to self-medicate. They just want to feel better. They want to feel better, and they don't know the resources. So one of the things that we've done with Burgers and Bands, and one of the things we wanted to do was, we did feel alone. Not just Ethan, but we felt alone. We didn't know who to call. We didn't know what to do. So at Burgers and Bands, it's not depressing. It's very fun. We don't even do speeches about sadness. It's very fun. But we have tables set up. We have Jen Corbin from the Crisis Center. We have Timberline Knowles coming from Chicago to talk about, to have a table for residential treatment. We have the hospital's going to have a table. We have a lot of resources there. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention will be there.
Right.
And the whole point is to have all these tables set up so that if you need something, they're there, and at least you have this resource.
So you could slide a pamphlet off and tuck it in your back pocket.
Exactly.
And your secret may still be safe.
Right.
But also it's a visual thing. I mean, this is 24 resources.
Right.
For you, whatever it may be.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, well, and going back to the not alone thing, you go to this event and you see 100 people here who are all there for you if you need it.
True.
Which is cool.
True. And some of them I'm assuming are suffering from depression. Some of them have had it impacted their families in some way, and then others are just there to support the community, because this is what communities do.
Exactly.
I'll show my ignorance here. I mean, is depression, is that something that is with you forever, or is that curable or just manageable?
It kind of depends on the person.
Yeah, and I think management. So most people know that when Ethan went through his depression, I followed very closely behind, because I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I was so busy trying to keep Ethan alive, I didn't take care of myself. So I had what was called situational depression, and so that'll happen when you're in a bad situation. You're going through a divorce, you have you lose a child, you're going through an illness. That's situational awareness. But other kinds might last forever, and then they're still manageable. In most cases, they're manageable in some way. But you said earlier about the medicine. I highly encourage parents. This is something we learned the hard way. Instead of going to your pediatrician when your child's depressed, see somebody who specializes in mental health, because we started with Ethan with ADHD medicine through a pediatrician, not through somebody who specializes in mental health. And that would have made a difference, I think, to us, because the medication that he was on, I think, a good portion of that led to the depression. And then again, when we went to the pediatrician and said, hey, we have a problem, look at what's happening here, they said to us, we think she's fine. We think he's fine.
Again, that's a pediatrician talking out of turn.
Right.
Is what it is. I had an instance with my daughter. She broke her hip, or dislocated her hip when she was 3, and osteopath, a bone doctor.
Right.
That is used to treating 80-year-old women. said, "Oh, it was abuse." So, I mean, this was just somebody speaking out of turn, and I totally agree with you. You go to somebody, you go to the specialist, you go to the person that is able to diagnose, to suggest, whether it be medicinally or with other types of behavioral modification type things. There, do you feel you're good now? I mean, you're so excited about Burgers and Bands. You've, you're very cool, very brave to talk about, what you've been through. How are you feeling now?
I mean, I'm doing a lot better than I used to. Mm-hmm. There's always that fear that it'll come back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You've had this.
Yeah, you because it is a scary feeling to be in the middle of depression. You're so alone, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's always that fear. But somebody asked me this question yesterday, how are we doing? And I said, so much better. There's still days that you worry, but so much better, really. And I think because we're all much more open now, and so when we're having a bad day, we're like, why don't you wait a minute? I'm having a bad day. Let me have my bad day for a minute, and then it'll be okay. And we're able to talk about it. That was something it was harder to do before because you felt...
So it's something that you recognize.
Yeah.
At that point, and then whether it be behavior modification, it's like, okay, I need to remove myself from this situation that's causing the stress or causing the anxiety.
Right.
Take a walk in the park, go, wrestle with the dog or whatever it may be, that does it, which is phenomenal.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about the happy stuff. Let's talk about Burgers and Bands in this year and what's happening, where we can get tickets and what to expect. You said you really upped the ante as far as some of the entertainment goes, what the Severna Park Taphouse is. Did I get that right? Severna Park Taphouse?
Severna Park Taphouse, yeah. So they've even done, I don't know if you've been there lately, people drive by it on the outside and you think, what is this place? Because it's a little tiny place, and it used to be, quite honestly, it used to be a dive bar.
And there's nothing wrong with dive bars.
So, no. But when they bought it, I don't know if the patio has always been there, but they've added to it. They've added a great big deck in the back. There's a big yard. There's cornhole. We're going to put up a stage this year. We didn't do that last year, but we've got the Kelly Bell Band coming this year.
Kelly Bell Band is great.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. Come at noon for the Kelly Bell Band because he's got a commitment later in the day. So
okay.
Most of our great bands will be in the evening, but he's coming at noon, so don't miss him. Don't think that coming in the evening is going to be the best.
As an event planner, that's very smart, Ann.
So
get the good talent in earlier, get the people in earlier.
Exactly. And then we have Jimmy Haha will be there.
Jimi Davies is great.
Oh, he's wonderful. We have Dave Teef will be there.
Right.
He's actually he jumped in. The Shatners were supposed to come, and there was some miscommunication. They're not even playing together anymore.
Right.
And so Dave Teef was like, "I've got you," and he's coming in. He's playing. He'll be the closing act.
Which is great because Laughing Colors does their reunion like once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So it's an unusual appearance.
Yeah, so I'm really, really excited about that. We have Starbelly, who Brian Ewald, I think you probably know.
Yep.
We have a young artist who's going to be basically debuting her new band. It's called Mac and Blue. It's Mackenzie Priddy, who is one of the best bass players you'll ever see.
She won a bunch of awards. I know when they had the Battle of the Bands or something at Union Jacks. I remember. She came up with a lot.
Yes, she is pretty amazing, and her singing is just right up there with it. So it's
she's so much fun to watch too.
Yes,
like she's always dancing at least a little bit while she's playing, which is always fun.
Yeah, so she's phenomenal. She's actually at a bass camp this week down in Atlanta. She got a scholarship to this bass camp down in Atlanta, but she's really, really that good. So I'm trying. Dean Rosenthal will be there, and we're really excited about that.
Again, he's got a great Annapolis song. I can't remember what it is. It's all about like West Street and names all the towns and stuff like that. He's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's great.
And his racket, I think, is as he calls Dean Rosenthal, and his racket.
Yeah.
I think his name is.
And
band.
then Jeremy Gillis, is that how you say his name? Jeremy Gillis. Oh my gosh, Larry's going to be so mad at me. Larry Rodbell's the drummer in that band, and he's our drum teacher for our son, who, by the way, is in Z Band, and that's the little band you guys will see all over downtown Annapolis. They play all over downtown Annapolis, and they're the lead singer in that band's 9 years old. So they're always fun to watch. They'll be there as well.
Just out of curiosity, maybe make a conversation. I don't know whether he's here, but Jeremy Ragsdale, do you know him?
I don't.
He had a voice studio down in Annapolis, and he went and tried out for want to say America's Got Talent or something like that, and got shot down, and ended up going over to Europe to Romania's Got Talent.
Oh,
it may not be Romania's Got Talent, maybe like Star Search Romania or something along those lines. But he ended up winning this thing. He lives in Arnold.
I actually did know about him.
And he's phenomenal. I don't know whether he's in town, but I think I may give him a call and see if
give him a call, because
he may be willing to come and do a set or something, or sit in with somebody. That might be kind of
that'd be kind of cool to have him there. So
something fun. But this all gets underway at 11 a.m.
11 a.m. It goes till 10 p.m. We have one of the things that has been amazing to me, the communities here in Severna Park. So Chartwell and Chartridge and some Shipley's and I'm going to forget them, Berrywood, and all the communities all got together and they've all done baskets. And they, one after the other, has come in, and they are all outdoing each other with these beautiful baskets that we're going to auction off.
Oh, how cool!
So they're really amazing. They've done a really good job.
And how many communities are there? There's probably a dozen that are
at least. And I think we have something like, what did we say, 26 baskets.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them, it has Orioles tickets and an Orioles cooler and all kinds of fun stuff. We're raffling off
the beach basket is what, like $200 worth.
Yeah, it's got chairs in it and liquor.
How cool.
Booze. But it's really, there's a lot of really, really cool baskets. There's a date basket. Everybody picked a different theme. And they did that really kind of on their own, because that was one of the things I was going to say to you. The support has been phenomenal. All I have to do is say, actually these days I don't even have to say Burgers and Bands. I'll say, oh, I'm Ann Brennan. And they go, oh, from Burgers and Bands. Because people really know it. And it's fun to see how much they're behind this project.
Yeah.
We're actually thinking about taking it to North Carolina, duplicating it down there, because we're like, I think it's helped our community. We've actually heard from parents who said their kids have come to them since last year's event to say, hey, I need help. And that when they talked to them, they realized it was that event that made them open up. And that's, to me, if we can duplicate that all over the country.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
To know that you've got the ability to sit there and talk to mom or dad, and I know there's a lot of kids that can't talk to their parents. I mean, I was one of them that was, I would never think about, going to my mom or dad with something like that. But to know that there's a hotline that you can call that, if you're in dire straits, you can call the crisis response team and they'll come out and take care of you there. Burgers and Bands, it's $20 to get in the gate door.
Oh, it's 30. Sorry, it's $30 to get in the door. And
I misread it. Okay.
Yeah, it's $30 to get into the door, but a family pack of 4 is, and that doesn't, you don't have to be a family. You could be 2 couples, but four tickets for $100.
And if the children are under 5, you don't have to pay for them as well.
Right.
Okay, so we can go rent some kids under 5 and bring them for free.
Exactly. But it, we can't stress that enough. It is a family-friendly event. It is not, we went out to University of Maryland and we met some young men, and they said, maybe we'll come. And we said, it's not a frat party.
Right.
It's all family friendly, and I think
I've seen that video on YouTube.
Exactly. But I think they'll still come. I think that we'll get a good response for people. The tickets are selling pretty fast. The volunteers, we've got a volunteer sign up. You can do that. Actually, you can get the tickets and you can volunteer on our Facebook page. So
okay, and your Facebook page is Burgers and Bands.
Yep, it's
and
Burgers
you can get
and
to your
Bands.
website, which also has links to your Facebook page, and that's burgersandbands.org.
Exactly.
And is spelled out.
Exactly.
So there's no N or anything funky in there. It's just pretty easy. It's just Burgers and Bands. What is your role in there, other than walking around, taking the money at the door, and making sure that the place doesn't burn down?
So our role, hopefully this year, is going to be a little bit better than last year. Last year it was Ethan and I and Jen Bonk. And my husband. My husband helped some as well.
He was a huge help.
Yeah, but it was really 4 of us running the entire event, and that was.
And we had no idea how big it was going to be.
No,
we were getting there that morning, like either nobody's going to show up or we're going to pass the fire code.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, because we only sold 25 tickets last year. We had, I would say, I didn't keep a good count because we were so busy. We didn't have a good system. Between 300 and 500 people.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah,
so that's more people than the Taphouse season.
Exactly. Well, and we thought there would be. I mean, honestly, we only sold 25 tickets beforehand. So this year we're asking people to get their tickets early because it will help us to, know how many staff, how many more volunteers we have.
Well, and we are afraid of passing the fire code, so we want to make sure that we think we're actually going to sell out before the date is.
Right. So we want to get everybody. We want to get everybody in there early. Get the tickets early so we can make sure we've got them accommodated.
Right. And certainly the tap house wants to know how much beef they need to buy and everything else there.
Exactly. They're going to put grills outside this year, actually. They're doing a really neat thing for us. They're going to set up the grills outside. They're going to do a special, I can't remember exactly what it is, but you'll get a burger and a drink and chips for a special rate. I think it's something like $8 or $8.50.
I think it's $8.
But
I would like to point out that a number 7 meal at McDonald's is like slightly over $8, so you're going to get a much better.
And their burgers are awesome. So it's gonna, and then you can order off the menu as well.
Yeah, but get your food a lot faster, and kids always order the normal cheeseburger anyway, so it's perfect for them as well.
Is there anything for kids to do, little kids, the under 5 crowd, or is it just a jam and dance with the bands and
making games by themselves? Last year people brought little footballs and stuff to throw around in the grass and stuff like that.
And you say you got cornhole and
cornhole. It's really such a family day that you do see the kids are running around. Everybody's watching them. We actually have somebody at the gates to make sure nobody sneaks out. Actually, honestly, to make sure they don't sneak out with their beer, because that's against the code. Right. But also to make sure the children are safe. So we have a lot of volunteers in those capacities as well.
So everybody's a mom there.
Exactly. Everybody's a mom. We're taking care. Everybody's taking care of everybody
Striking
there.
Fear in the heart of every kid, saying I can get yelled at by any number of these ladies here today, as opposed to just mine. I'm in trouble.
Exactly.
But that's fine. Well, I do encourage everybody to experience the fun event. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about raising awareness for suicide prevention. And that's always a tough word, like cancer, suicide, raising awareness for suicide, and to work to help fund suicide prevention.
Right,
I guess is the thing. And that all ties in with depression, and it ties into, as you mentioned, with the heroin use and the drug use that we're seeing here and everything else. And Severna Park, as many should know, if they don't, they do now, does have a higher preponderance of suicide than other communities in our immediate area.
Right.
And it's something that needs to be addressed. And Ethan, I mean, thanks for the description of the 7-foot big fat lion bully, for the suggestion to reach, peek around that waist and see who's on the other side ready to help you out, because I think that's critical. Whether it's a doctor or just I think all it takes is one person on your side, and then it's like a giant snowball where it'll turn around and you'll see that there's a lot more that's out there for everybody. But burgersandbands.org. Go there, find out about the event. It is in its second year. Buy your tickets. They are $30. Or if you want to save a couple bucks, buy 4 of them for $100, which works out to $25 a ticket. That's a $5 savings. And do some good for the community. And it's not just Severna Park. It is the greater, Annapolis, Anne Arundel, Baltimore, Maryland community. This is not isolated to Severna Park. It's not isolated to Anne Arundel County or Maryland. This is a problem that is worldwide. And Ann Brennan and Ethan Brennan are doing a hell of a lot of good work to help, spread that word that we do need to do something about it. And I thank you for it.
Thanks.
I thank you for the time and everything else. And we're going to see you on June 3rd.
That's awesome. Thanks.
With Kelly Bella at noon.
Exactly.
And we've got Jimi Davies, or Jimmy Haha.
Right.
And we've got Priddy Music Academy that's going to be bringing some people, and Starbelly.
Starbelly, we're excited about them. And Dave Teef.
And Dave Teef.
Yeah.
Is he doing the Lapping Colors, or is it just Dave Teef? And
it'll just be Dave Teef. Yeah. We have to keep it a little quieter after 8 because it's a school night. It's a Sunday night.
Right.
So.
Right. And June 3rd, we're still in school.
Yes, we're still in school. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you both very much. I do encourage everybody who's listening, burgersandbands.org. Get your tickets. $20. It goes directly to help it out. I mean, we're here living in a tent in Severna Park right now. Ann doesn't have a house or anything like that. So, no, it goes entirely to the cause.
It does.
And that's something
everything.
that needs there. If you want to sponsor it, it's probably not too late. They would love to take your money, I'm sure. And
we would love to take your money.
You can find out all that information and contact them on Burgers and Bands.
And if you can't go, there's a place to donate online. There's a place on our website to donate if you just want to help out and can't be there that day.
And everybody should. Thanks very much. And there you go. burgersandbands.org, Sunday, June 3rd. We will see you there. Please just try to go for, even if it's just for an hour or so.
I think I'll go.
Yeah.
I never go anywhere.
Definitely worth it.
It's something that I take pretty seriously, actually.
It's a problem nobody wants to talk about. It's a problem that everybody needs to talk about. There'll be resources there for everybody. And, as Ethan said, you've got this big bully that's, you don't realize there's help available for you.
People I don't think they realize how difficult it is to get help for something like that.
And all it takes, and one thing as I came out of that, the one thing it takes is just for the person that's suffering from depression is just to see some fingertips, just of help. Somebody's reaching out a hand to help you. All it takes is just having a glimmer of knowing that either A, you're not alone, or B, there's somebody there that's willing to say, hey, come here, let me see what I can do for you. And a lot of times that's what it takes.
Well, true. But I think what people have got to realize is that you have to be a little aggressive with it, because the people who are on the other side of that just don't feel like that they're worthy of it, that they're worth it.
True.
And then that's the big problem, is that you don't want to ask for help because you feel like you're burdened to everybody. And that's the difficult part.
So there you go. We will see you on June 3rd.
I will do it. In the meantime, you will find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page.
And if you don't find us on Facebook, we'll find you.
That's creepy. We have a page and we have a group there. You can find us on Twitter at MD Krabs Podcast, and find us on Apple Podcasts. And you really do want to subscribe to us, is because once you subscribe, every time there's a new episode, it's pushed to you automatically, so you don't have to do anything. We magically appear on your device. And be sure to rate us, and a review would be great. The reason being is that when people are looking for local podcasts, and do that for everyone we're talking about, Red Maryland, for the Naptown Pintcast, for More Power to You, to the Annapolis Podcast, and anyone else I'm forgetting, rate them and review them, because the algorithms for Apple Podcasts really push that out, and it really helps all of us. So I know we say this every week, and I know that you kind of tune it out.
Better than a subscription model.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's because Lord knows you guys aren't paying for this, and no one would. Like my mom might. No, she's never listened to it. I don't think she listened to her episode.
She'd probably charge us for a guest fee.
Now, if you're not into Apple Podcasts, you can find us on Google Play. And again, go and enable us on your Alexa, because it's the easy way to listen to us. And of course, the Eye on Annapolis Daily Briefing. You want to enable that skill on your app on your phone, and so you can get that on your Alexa every morning. And I guess we'll see you guys tonight on Red Maryland.
Tune into that. God knows what that's going to be like.
It'll be fine.
Famous last words.
Unless we talk about net neutrality and the three of you gang up on me.
Ooh. Good idea.
This has been the Maryland Krabs Podcast with Tim Hamilton and John Fernay. Sure to follow them in all the regular places: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and online at themarylandkrabs.com. Take a moment to rate us on iTunes. Now, get the hell out of my kitchen. Seriously, go!
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.